What's up, Internet? You're tuned into a very special episode of Nintendo Noise. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friend and co-host, Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hello. How's it
Yo,
going?
I'm doing great. We had a double shot of Nintendo. I'm sure this has happened before, but to my memory, I don't remember the last time we got two in one day. That's crazy.
It was a lengthy presentation. That's pretty wild.
It's low key funny too, because it's like when they first announced it, I was like, damn, two back to back. That's nuts. Like 40 minutes for both. It's like, okay. It's a regular length, but it felt like twice as long because we had like
It
a whole break
did.
and everything. Different
Yeah.
presenters, it's a very different vibe to those two presentations.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was an interesting one. I don't know that there was any major like S tier headlines to walk away with here on this one, but this was one of those like death by a thousand cuts, but like in a positive way. So a thousand tiny little announcements.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah. No, absolutely. I'm not life-changing, I walk away the same person, but it was, like, a lot of cool little drops, just some nice new info, I went in low expectations, walking away feeling like, "Yeah, you know what? Learned a lot. Saw some cool stuff."
I think that's always the thing for me with partner directs, where it's like I go in with a very low expectation just because I feel like they've kind of set that for us, right? That it's like, yeah, like
Yeah.
partner directs at best, there's maybe one or two big announcements, right? With Indie Worlds, it's a little bit more you have that wonder, like, is there gonna be something like, a Hollow Knight, right, Silk Song, like that kind of thing that's gonna blow everybody's hair back? Of course, we didn't have anything like that today, but I will say I walked away with a few games that were either games that were, like, already on my radar that I was more interested in, and a few new games that they had, shown off for the first time that caught my attention. So, at the very least, I walked away with a couple games for the wish list, which I think is the kind of bare minimum you want from one of these guys, right? So
Right.
I remember, I think offline, you were like, there was like two or three games I was really excited about. And it's like, I feel
Yeah,
like that's the bar you want to hit, right?
exactly. Something for everyone.
Exactly. So let's get into the announcements themselves. I think we'll do what we've been doing the last couple times at these guys, where we'll kind of go through things in chronological order. If there's a game that we want to pull over and talk about, we'll do so then. Um, we'll start off with the indie world event because that's what they did, obviously. And they kick things off with something that I think if you are like your fingers very on the pulse of the news, it's not a huge announcement because you knew about these expansions, but very cool to see them coming to Nintendo Switch. Balatros Friends of Jimbo is a free update to Balatro that's going to be coming to Nintendo Switch as well. And that, of course, has like crossover content with The Witcher, Vampire Survivors, Dave the Diver, and Among Us. If you haven't checked out Balatro yet, you really should give this one a shot. This is on right now. It's on the short list for Game of the Year for me, Steve, and Max. We all really, really enjoyed it. I definitely would say anybody that likes, if you like deck builders, if you like card games, if you like arcadey, like even somebody if you're like somebody that likes turn-based combat, that kind of thing. Like I think it's definitely a game that is worth checking out for sure. You should give this one a shot, Sierra. I think you might like
Okay. I'm
it.
not big on, like, card games like this, but obviously, like, Max did that, like, video about Balatro, and, now learning that all of you love it that much, gonna have to give it a shot. I mean, I gotta give them props for collaborating with Dave the Diver. That was my 2023 game of the year.
So, I mean, what better time to jump in on this than now with the
That
the
is
Dave the
true.
Diver decks you could
That is
check
true.
out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I think even if you're not a big card game person, it's like I think it's accessible enough that you can get into it because it's you don't have to get into like heavy like deck building ahead of games. It's not like something like Marvel Snap or Magic or something like that where it's like you need to like understand the meta to build a deck and play. It's like you play like poker, like you just keep getting dealt hands and then you make decisions as you go that will change your deck overall because you get like all these crazy modifiers and stuff like that. Like you
Oh,
can
wow.
like one of the things that you could do is like you'll get like packs of cards. Like it's like a roguelite basically where it's like after every round you get money that you can then use to like buy packs of cards that will like influence your deck overall. So you could get like you could be like, all right, I'm gonna take the twos out of my deck and replace them with more kings, or like,
Oh,
with like different kinds of
interesting.
crazy modifiers. Like when you play this card, you get like a double multiplier. When you play this card, you get
Okay,
extra gold, whatever, that kind of thing.
sweet.
Um, I think it's worth giving it a shot.
Okay.
All right, so then next up we got Alba and Neva, I think is how you say that. This is that game from the creators of Gree. Or maybe it's just called Alba. I can't remember the title, but Neva's the wolf character as well. And it's like you play she looks like she's like some kind of like shaman or sorcerer or something like that, like has some
Yeah.
kind of magic powers. And then you have this like wolf with these like, deer antlers, and it's got that like just absolutely gorgeous, like almost like painted art style. Gree was not a game that I super connected with, but I think this one just looks so striking. Like I can't help but be interested in it.
Right. Like, the art style is definitely very compelling.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for a good animal companion, a crazy
Yeah.
wolf monster with deer antlers. It's like that sounds like a friend I would like to make.
Yes, very friend-shaped.
Exactly.
Yes.
So October 15th on that one, right around the corner. That was a kind of trend with a lot of these games. A couple of them were pretty imminent, which is cool. It's been like
Yeah.
kind of a quiet middle of the year. We got a lot to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. So, all right, this next one, I'm very interested to see how you reacted to it. It's called Moth Cubit. This is you play this like cute little moth guy. You work in a weird like office job, and there are like these. It kind of reminds me of like Persona meets Undertale almost, because it's like there's like
Mhm.
this slice of life thing, but then like they showed like combat, but rather than it being like hit point based, it's like conversational, and it's like you have to like talk your way through the fights. So it's like
So,
kind
like,
of
pacifist Undertale.
yeah, yeah, or like the thing in Persona where like you like talk to the personas and you have to like go through those dialogue trees to like actually like get that mask and everything. Like, it kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of those kinds of like dialogue based combat systems or whatever, which I love both of those games. That's really cool.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, I love the concept and the art style too.
it's so
It's like
cute.
it didn't make my top 3 that I walked away with, but it, like, raised an eyebrow. I was like, "I'm
All
into
right.
this." Yeah.
I think this was definitely a top 3er for me. I thought this was super interesting, and, like, I'm always a sucker, as soon as there's, like, the mention of, "Oh, your choices influence the game, and there's multiple endings." It's like, "Yes, I'm in, baby."
Just you just gotta plaster a van with your choices influence the game, and that's how you get Pete if you want to kidnap him.
The easiest way, yeah.
Easiest way.
So this was the next one was another one I was excited about. Coffee Talk Tokyo is
Yes.
so cool. We're big Coffee Talk fans here. Of course, there was kind of the like really tragic development that one of the key creators of the first two episodes like passed away. About I guess about 2 years ago now. It's been a
Mhm.
while. And they finished the second chapter and everything, and like that had a bunch of his input still there and everything. And this is kind of the first totally new effort from that team to kind of move forward now. And yeah, I mean, this is really cool. I mean, I really love the original Coffee Talk. We did like a whole game club about it back at Loot Pots back in the day, and had a lot of fun with it. It's a really cool, unique indie game with a really great story, and I'm excited to see them, kind of keep expanding that world and like getting to check out other cities with like different creatures and like exploring different cultures, and not only just like through the city, but also like I would guess through the gameplay, right? Because I imagine that Japan probably has a totally different coffee culture, at least in certain ways, than a city in America or Canada or whatever it is. It's in North America.
Totally.
Um, yeah, it's very cool. I'm super interested in this one. Glad to see them doing something else.
Yeah, me too. I Coffee Talk has always been on my list. I'd love to get to it someday
You
and
should
play them all
definitely
in
check it out.
order. but, like, I really loved them branching out and, like, doing a different region. I thought that was really creative. And then just, like, the matcha cup, I'm like, "Oh, this is so fun." Uh, yeah, it's definitely, like it's on my radar, it has been. I will get to it, but, like, just glad to see them chugging along and, like, doing more iterations of the game. It's awesome.
It's, like, just a very easy way to sequelize too, to just be like, "Alright, here it is in another city." It's like, "Great, awesome, that's
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Do that 30 more times."
For real.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend to anybody if you if you dig story-driven games. It's like it's very much a visual novel, you know? But very, very, like, easy, digestible, like, a game you could play through in a weekend and walk away having had a meaningful experience. So definitely give it a try. Okay, so then this might be my 3rd, like, top 3 because this is another one I was really excited about. Um, Sea of Stars is getting a free DLC that's coming next. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention this. Coffee Talk Tokyo 2025. So then Sea of Stars, which was one of my favorite games last year. It was on the short list for my game of the year. And it's getting a free DLC update. It's called The Throes of the Watchtower. It's like a whole new story, new like world, new playable character that joins the two main characters. Um I am very interested in kind of what the story implications are because the game kind of ends in a very like well, I guess it depends on which ending you get, but some of the endings have a very like finality to them, and it feels very much like
Oh.
this feels over, right? And that like
Yeah.
moving there are ways I could see it having an like, oh, these characters go off on another adventure kind of thing, but it does seem like there would have to be a little bit of like explanation for that maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm very much like I loved the first game so much. I'm happy to get more. It is just kind of to me like where does this take place? Am I going to be able to just jump into it from my completed save or is this like a you kind of need to be in the middle of the game kind of thing? Like I'm-
Right, like, "Wait a second, where does this fit into the plot?"
and I
No retcon, right? Haha.
Yeah, and, like, I feel like it has to be after the main events, because otherwise it's like that's always a weird thing in games where there's,
Yeah.
like, world-ending consequences, and it's like, "Oh, do you wanna go do this DLC where you're gonna, like, go fuck off and do this other adventure while the world is burning?" It's like, I don't know if that's gonna play out,
Yeah.
but very excited for this. I can't
Mhm.
wait to get my hands on this one when it comes out. This next one's a good one for my wife. Shrek is getting a Power Wash Simulator, pack.
The wife mention, oh my god, I didn't know Sarah was a Shrek head.
Sarah
I
is a power wash head. She loves Power Wash Simulator.
Oh, okay. Flip it, still gotta flip it. Well, Power Wash, I got really into it this year finally. I, had been meaning to pick it up. And, like, I literally had no reason to. It was just, like, another one of those things, like, "Dang, I really love to play this game." Like, but, like, at the same time, having the will to carve out, like, the time, I guess, is, like, another thing, but, um, I I didn't realize until after playing all of the DLC you can buy, and, like,
There's
now
so
having Shrek
much.
in the mix is hilarious.
It's a pretty big one too. It's like 5 different maps and,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty chunky. Because some of them are, like, a lot more basic, like, they have some where
really.
it's, like, an entire map like that, or, like, a pack of maps, like, they did a SpongeBob one a while ago that was similar where it was, like, I think it's, like, 2 or 3 locations.
Yeah.
Um Which is cool, right? Like, the big meteor ones are definitely better because 'cause there's been plenty where Sarah's been like, "Damn, I'm already done." Like, I beat it in a day, and now that's it, I need more stuff to
Mhm.
watch. So,
Well, there you go.
always cool to see the kinda rollout for this game. It's like a game that I feel like has such a simple premise, and it's, like, totally found an audience and, like, very clearly, right? Like, people just are hungry for whatever the next thing is whenever the next thing comes.
Well, it's
So
so fun to wash. I love it. It's so satisfying, except when my wrists and my fingers get really tired and I have to pause.
You gotta
Imagine,
get
like,
some wrist guards.
I was gonna say, like, is this really the thing that finally gets me to buy compression gloves? This not not drawing not playing guitar, not another more wacky or complicated game, Power Wash.
No, this is you know, this is you're an e-athlete, Sierra. You need to protect your digits.
Mm,
All right, so next up we got Morsels, which is a they kind of described it as like a mouse versus cats roguelike. You're in this like very like grimy, like nasty kind of world. Like a lot of the characters like have like their eyes are like yellow and like kind of like sunken in. Like everybody looks like kind of like gross and pimply. Like it's got a real like
yeah,
grossness to it, but
but
at
at
the
the
same
same
time,
time
go for it. You read my mind. You read my mind, baby.
it's such a beautiful aesthetic.
Gorgeous.
How I think the beauty lies in that, it has such a distinct style to the character design. So you have these grotesque in-world creatures, but then the overworld and even just, like, the level of detail is what makes it so radiant and beautiful. And this is one of my top 3 from the direct.
Hell yeah, awesome.
Very I keep wanting to get into roguelikes. I hope this is the one where I can finally do that. I love the mechanics that were introduced and, like, how they talked about the game, you're this mouse, but, like, you gain different forms and abilities, and, it's just, yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I'm glad I got, like, a moment because it's just, like I just, like, praise and cherish when, like, there's an indie world game that, like, stands out like this one instead of, like, being in, like, a swath or a sea of, like, JRPGs or farming sims.
Yeah, it's always nice when you have an indie game like this that really like immediately stands out and has like a very very like deliberate vision in its aesthetic or its gameplay loop or both, right? And yeah, like this game just has so much personality. You know,
Yeah,
it's one of the games that like I walked away remembering very clearly. You know,
yeah,
just like it's the vibe and tone. And I think like in a big presentation like this, like that's the toughest thing is to like come out and establish like what your personality is in like 30 seconds or whatever, right? And like
yeah,
why we should keep you on the radar. And yeah, I mean, one of the things for me that I thought was really cool, like we're talking about the art style was like it had a CRT filter over it where it was like had scan lines. And I mean, it was literally just last week on the Steam Deck podcast where Max and I were talking about how the kind of technology for that has come along a lot in the last couple of years and being able to like emulate the way that scan lines like impact pixel art is something that it's a really interesting thing if you're somebody who's inclined to go and do a little bit of digging. There's been this kind of conversation that's emerged over the last couple of years about how a lot of the pixel art we have today is like nostalgic for a look that pixel art didn't really have when it was contemporary because of CRTs. Like you look at a game like Final Fantasy and like Final Fantasy 7, right, on the PlayStation with like the character, like portraits, right, for when they're giving dialogue. And the way that it's drawn is done in such a way so that the scan lines will smooth those jagged edges and make it look more like a portrait. But when you just look at the blocks like on a modern screen, it doesn't look that way. It doesn't look the way it was supposed to. And this game like feels like it's very much taking advantage of like the kind of like artistry of using pixel art on a CRT to give it that like there's like a haziness to it and everything has like a glow and like it being this like very dark world. Like I feel like it makes those things really pop and stand out and have like super high contrast in a way that like really just despite it being very disgusting in many ways, like we were both struck by how beautiful it looks. And it's like
yeah,
that's I think very intentional and like you know, uh, game recognized game. It's very, very
yeah,
special.
absolutely.
So February 2025 on that one,
Yep.
Morsels. Looking forward to it. Okay, next up
And
was
then the follow-up.
the weirdest game in the entire thing. Date Everything is a household dating sim coming out October 24th. You are in a house, and you can date everything in the house, including your own sense of existential dread or the text box in the game.
This game is so unserious. This is what they wanted, right?
Yes,
I
I think
think
it has to be, right? It has to be.
I'm not mad at it, but I'm like, "Oh my god, you use so much resource and time
That's that's the thing for me,
to
right?
do
Is
this," and it's like, it's a choice.
I'm right there with you, where it's like, you know,
Again,
uh,
not mad at it. I'm really not. It's
no,
I cackled, but, like,
I
wow.
I feel the exact same way. Just like I don't have any negative feelings towards this game at all. It's a great bit, sure. It is so funny to me though when you see something like this, and there is that feeling of like, man, like you dedicated like years of your life to this bit, huh? Like you're that committed to the bit, and it's like, you know what? Okay, God bless you.
Okay.
I hope it's
Alright.
good. For the dating sim folks, if any of you at home are big dating sim people, are you excited about date everything? Is this what you've wanted to have? A hot anime avatar for your your junk drawer? Is that what you're missing in
Home
your life?
for real. I
You know
wonder if
what?
you can date your humidifier
I
or,
would be
like
I would be deeply surprised if you can't. Name the 5 craziest things you think it could be. I bet you they're in the game.
but then it's like, if you can date everything, that's I feel like you're s you as, like, a game design thing, and I know fucking absolutely nothing about game design, but what I imagine a game designer has to reconcile with is, like, it's everything. It's like, what, the fucking air particles in the house?
I mean,
Is
your own sense of existential dread is a character, right? So it's like that leads me to believe there's probably a level of minutia here that is insane.
yeah, like, what are the guardrails on this? What is if nothing is off limits, then what?
And it's like got to be what? Like hundreds of lines of dialogue for each individual path. And it's like
Yes.
my question too is it one of those like you play, you roll credits, you play again, or like are you in a polyamorous relationship with your entire house? That's who's to say? But these are the questions that you're all going to be able to answer on October 24th when Date Everything drops. So I hope somebody will do the research out there. Let us
Please let
know.
us know.
I can't date
I
everything.
don't have time.
I'm a one house guy. I'm sorry.
What if
uh,
you can take the whole house? Oh my god. What if the house is
that's
okay,
the
you
final boss. You do
you're
every
dating
single, and then you can date the collective consciousness of the house.
oh my god. Yeah, y'all gotta let us know.
I don't know. See, maybe this is a stream. Maybe this is a stream. Maybe we go down this rabbit hole.
Oh, if someone pays for th I'm not I have so much I only have so much money.
It's like if I'm giving my
Um,
time to this game, I'm not giving my
yeah.
money to.
Yeah.
All right, gang. That's all right. If you want that stream, you let us know. We'll figure it out. All right. Next up, we got Peglin, I believe was how they said this one. This was one that I was very interested in as well. So this was the pachinko inspired RPG where you play this like little goblin, and there are these kind of like um pachinko peg patterns basically like for each level, and you have to drop you know I guess a circle. There's like bombs and other things, whatever, right? Like you're dropping this thing that you're going to follow, and how many pegs you hit and like what you hit on the way down. There's like different ones that trigger different abilities, influences like how much damage you're dealing. It reminded me a lot of like Paper Mario, where it's like, oh, it's like the stage mechanic or something like that in Thousand Year Door, where it's like it's this kind of standard RPG setup, and then you have this like fun little X factor to it.
Yeah.
There's this other game I played. I played off and on for a couple of years called I think it's called Letter Quest, where it's like um a like word search RPG. It's a similar kind of thing where it's like you're on this kind of like infinite line, and it's like you're going battle by battle, and the way that you do it is by like spelling longer and longer
Oh.
words and stuff like that. You can get all these different combos for like using words with certain number of letters, like things like that.
Mhm.
And it kind of reminded me of that, of like, how do you take this like novel gameplay idea and then like, marry it to a turn-based RPG. And when that works, it's something that works for me really well. So this is one I was definitely interested in. It's a timed exclusive. It's out today. It was one of two shadow drops that you can just check out right away. I am thinking I'm gonna pick this one up later. Maybe not today, but maybe this week, and we'll see. Maybe I'll have some thoughts on it in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, let us know.
So then we got this next one was called Wobbly Life. This this is one of those like very goofy, like, do anything, go anywhere type games.
Yeah, this is a Coco Melon game. This is just like I'm not the target audience, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was how I felt. I was kinda like, "Alright, like, great, this is for somebody, I'm sure. It's not me, though." Okay, so then this next one is called, Pico Park 2. This was the other timed exclusive, that you can check out today, and this was just, like, another one of those really novel ideas where it's a multiplayer puzzle platformer, and it's for up to 8 players, and, each level can be done, by yourself or with as many, like, combinations of players between 1 and 8, and then there's also a dark mode where you can kinda do those 60 levels, like, with less light and less guidance and everything, so, like, everything's a little bit more difficult. I thought this was just a really, really good idea. This is one of those indie games where you're like, "Oh, that's brilliant," right? You could see how that would be fun at a party. You can see that being those one of those types of games that you're like, you pick it up and you're like, "Oh, guys, we gotta try this," right? And
Yeah.
you play it for an afternoon and have a great time with it.
Yeah, giggle
Looks
with
like a
your
fun one.
friends. Yeah.
Exactly. Or like,
Yeah.
like a great game for streaming, right? Like jumping on with a couple friends, getting people from the audience or whatever, and just being like, let's see how far we can go. Let's see how many of these we
Mhm.
can get done in an hour, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like a great time. This is one I'd love to find an excuse to sit down with a group of friends and try out.
Yeah.
So then we had a sizzle reel that was like a ton of games from previous directs. I did not get a chance to like jot them all down. They were moving a little too quick for me.
Yeah.
But it was pretty much all games that were from like previous directs that we've seen. I recognized almost all of them. Um, was there anything that stood out to you in that section?
Plucky Squire maybe Cuisinart, but, like, not really, 'cause, like you said, I've seen these before, so it was just kinda like, "Hey, just reminding you that these are a thing.
Yeah. I
Don't
think
forget
for
about it."
I think for a lot of people, this is probably where they saw Plucky Squire's release date for the first time, right? Like if you're like
Yeah.
less online than we are. So I think for those people, that's obviously really cool. I'm really looking forward to Plucky Squire, but it kind of felt like you said, it's like, yeah, remember that this game exists. It's like, yep, yep, you showed it at every direct for the last 2 years. I'm ready for it. I'm gonna buy it day one.
Yeah.
Um Cuisinier I thought looked cool too. I
Yeah.
thought that was like neat. It's like Diablo with like a food theme, or not Diablo, like Hades. Yeah, that's cool. Seems like a good
Yeah.
good idea.
Anything with food, you got my attention, so
And then, the only other ones I wanted to, like, call out was, like, they had, like, the Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope DX edition.
Mhm.
Shovel Knight's one of my favorite games. This is, like, a new, even more definitive edition. If you haven't played it yet, this is my time to pitch you on playing Shovel Knight. You should go play Shovel Knight. If you haven't, you're missing out. And then Metal Slug Tactics, we've seen several times already. It's
So many
again,
times.
it's like it's not a game that's exciting to talk about at this point, but it's close, right? Like it's finally almost
Yeah.
here, and it just looks sick. Like every time they show the maps, I just think it looks like so engaging. I'm very much looking
Mhm.
forward to that one. All right, so I think that covers us on the indie world side of the fence. So let's.
Wait,
Oh, did I
wait,
miss
there's
something?
one more.
What did I
Pizza
miss?
Tower.
Oh, Pizza Tower, of course.
Oh, I was not expecting that. That was actually a really nice reveal, and that's one of my top 3. Like, I'm a big fan of Pizza Tower. Like, what if 2D platformer, very Nickelodeon coded, looks like it was designed in Microsoft Paint,
It does.
but it's this very fun and chaotic platformer. I've watched speed runs of it. Um, I love the characters, and I just like it's an incredibly well-designed game. I love it, but I haven't played it yet. I think to my knowledge, like, it's, PC, maybe, like, Xbox.
I
I'm
think
not
it
sure.
Yeah, I feel like it might have come to Xbox or PlayStation, but I don't remember. It's definitely
Yeah.
I played it on PC. That was where I got it.
But either way, like, now it's on Nintendo Switch, and my lazy ass who has a perfectly good gaming PC can finally go and download it on my Nintendo Switch.
As God intended.
As God is.
Yeah, that's it's a really great game. That was one I really enjoyed last year, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with it. I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
That's a really good one. Right at home on Nintendo too, obviously, right? Spiritual
Mhm.
successor. It's like if you won't make a Wario Land, we will. Get out of the way.
Hell yeah.
All right, you ready to jump over to the partner direct side of the fence?
Sure thing.
All right, great. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Waka Hula. Thank you all so much for being supporters over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to go check out the Flip Screen Games podcast or the Steam Deck podcast, where we talk about stuff that's not Nintendo, go check them out. We really appreciate you being here and being a member of the community. However you choose to get involved, you can head over to flipscreen.games and you'll find a bunch of ways to show your support, join the Discord, whatever you want to do. Thanks for being here. All right, let's get into the partner showcase. I think a lot less exciting overall on this one, right? Partner showcase usually is just like, it's a Nintendo Direct, but we don't have anything that's that exciting, right? Like I feel like that's ultimately the sales pitch we get with these partner directs more often than not. I think this lived up to that. There were a few cool announcements, a lot of check-ins on stuff that is for a very specific audience. If you are in that audience, you will be excited. If you are not, you're gonna feel like a lot of this stuff was whatever, right? And a couple of these things happen to be for me, so I walked away with a couple things I was into, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone from walking away feeling like whole lot of nothing. So your mileage may vary on this one, but a couple things I think will be fun to talk about. They kick things off with Tetris Forever. I thought this was one of the cooler announcements for sure.
Yes, agreed.
Like just a really great collection of games, and a lot of these games have not been re-released in a really long time. A couple of these like I've never even played. Like
Yeah.
Tetris 2. It's like, oh,
I
cool. Like
know.
I've never played like a bunch of these games in the middle here.
Right.
But yeah, obviously it's got the NES Tetris, it's got the two sequels, Tetris 2 and 3, and then there's like a couple other like crossovers. There's the Hatris and some of these other games that are like, unless you're a real Tetris nerd, you probably have never even heard of. A
Yeah.
couple of these I've never heard of, and I consider myself a pretty big Tetris nerd. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm very excited to check this out. The NES Tetris is also going to be coming to NSO, which is great. I mean, that's a really huge get. I think a really attractive thing to have on the service. And then there's a new mode in this game where it's I forget what they called it, but it was basically like it's basically a mode where it switches between the 9 versions of Tetris on the
Which
cart.
is so sick.
Yeah, which is like I don't even know how that's gonna work. Like a bunch of them have very
Yeah.
different rules. Awesome though. I love
Yeah.
anything that like adds more chaos to the Tetris formula.
Mhm.
And there's gonna be a new Maximus Cup for Tetris 99. Really cool. It's just a lot of good stuff if you're a Tetris fan. This is a really cool announcement for sure.
Yes.
Okay, so this next one, it looks insane. I want to acknowledge that, but I'm kind of interested in it. It's called Star Overdrive. This is a game where you're like a hoverboarder, and it's like there's
Yeah.
a combination of like part of it where you're doing like it looks kind of like something like SSX or something like where it's like downhill like hoverboard racing and you're doing tricks and trying to work
Yeah.
on your but then there's also combat and they were like the like elevator pitch of like what you're doing in this game is like searching for your lost lover. So it's just like
On a
there's
hoverboard.
so many weird things, and I'm like, this could amount to absolutely nothing, or it could be like one of those games where it's like this is wacky and ridiculous, but it's charming. And
Right.
I'm hoping it's on that side of the fence because it's a ridiculous premise, but I think it's cute. I'm
Yeah, it did not
interested.
get me. Did not grip me. I was like, "Alright,
I
this is
get
for
that.
somebody."
I don't don't know if I'm that somebody, but I want to be, you know?
You aspire to be.
I aspire to be a Star Overdrive player. It's a timed exclusive, so we'll see. We'll see how that one turns out. This is one that I think they said is coming later this year. But so this was an interesting one. They said that everything in this showcase would launch by like this year, and I believe they meant this financial year because there were several games that were 2025 marked.
Right.
So, you know, seems like everything on this list should be out by next March.
Mhm.
So then Goat Sim 3 is coming to Nintendo Switch. It's Goat Simulator. It's on Nintendo
Yeah,
Switch,
what more could you
right?
ask for?
What more could you ask for? We got another sizzle reel, and it had mostly updates. There was a couple new games there. Was there anything in that that stuck out to you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think I had anything on that one that stood out to me. I'm just looking at it right now. Yeah. Yeah, nothing crazy. It's just a lot of games we've seen
Nope.
before, like that Disney Dream Valley
Dreamlight
or whatever.
Valley,
Yeah, there was,
yeah.
like, an update for that. It was an update for the Star Wars Overwatch game, couple things like that, but nothing that's to our taste, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, this next one was a weird one. SpongeBob the Patrick Star game is coming out October 4th. It's a physics-based platformer, is I believe how they described it. Has like big goat simulator energy where it feels like it's like you're just kind of running around doing random activities as Patrick uh
Mhm.
in what looks like the Battle for Bikini Bottom engine, like when they did the rehydrated like
Right.
very much that like PS2, Xbox GameCube kind of like style of game, just like in the modern era. Weird, very weird. Cool, I guess. We don't really get games like this anymore. So there's a morbid
No.
curiosity for me. Not something that I'm necessarily interested in, but like it feels very of a time. And it's interesting to see them be like, oh, the remaster of this PS2 game worked. Let's make a new one. It's like, okay, I
Right,
like
yeah, like, you take that dice roll. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, the ragdoll physics would drive me nuts. They already drove me nuts in Breath of the Wild, so, this is just not for me, but yay, Patrick, I guess.
Good for you, buddy.
Star of the game.
Is that a pun? The star of the game?
Oh my god, no. I did not. Oh,
I'm putting a time code. That's a TikTok. That's a TikTok right there.
god damn it.
All right. So next up we got Fitness Boxing 3, which I missed the date on this one. I don't know if they gave it, but the note I wrote was this is Beat Saber for pores, is what it looked like to me.
Beat Saber for what?
For pores.
That's true. Can't afford the apparatus. Just play
Just
this.
play this. You can
Yeah.
flail your arms around, but no headset, and you
Yeah.
can't listen to licensed music. So it's all the exercise of Beat Saber with none of the reasons that people want to play Beat Saber.
Well, they had some licensed music, just not good licensed
Oh,
music.
did they? Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right, okay. Some anime themes or something. We got anything?
God, no. Top 40 from, like, 5 years ago.
Oh, yikes!
Yeah.
All right, come on. It's like we need something upbeat, something
I know.
danceable.
I mean, I could check the list again, but I just saw Stay by Kid Laroi, and I was like, "Nope. Checked out. Checked out immediately."
Great. Oh man. All right. So the next one we got is the Capcom Fighting Collection. This was cool. They gave a date for the Marvel vs. Capcom collection as well. Which is I think it was September. Would you mind looking that up for me real quick, Sierra?
Yeah.
For the MVC collection. But then this Capcom Fighting Collection is kind of like a set of another 8 games from Capcom's back catalog of fighters. And there are a couple games on here that have not been re-released or playable for like a long time. I think kind of the big headline, at least for me as somebody that's like not the biggest fighting game person. I like fighting games, but I'm certainly not an expert. Is the what is it? The Power Stone series is here. Power Stone 1 and 2, which were on the Dreamcast back in the day. And yeah, those are pretty beloved games, and they're not super playable, if
Mhm.
memory serves. I don't think they've only had like one or or so ports before. So it's pretty
Right.
cool.
So it comes out on September 12th.
12, thank you. Yeah, right around
Yes.
the corner. I am hoping to do something for that because I love MVC2. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of thinking it'd be fun to do like an invitational or something and like get a couple people together and do a little tournament, see what we can see how we get on.
Yeah. That'd be sick.
So then the other games on the collection are Capcom versus SNK2, Mark of the Millennium 2001, Power Stone 2, Project Justice. Oh god, and now they said and more. Give me the rest of them. You kidding me here? Well, that's the ones that they thought were the highlight. Thanks Capcom. Well, anyway, yeah, this is a really cool one. It's cool to see them kind of like leverage more of that back catalog and like
Yeah.
I personally like really enjoy going back and playing like old fighting games and kind of like reorienting myself in a system that I haven't played in a long time. Um and if you're switching the game a lot, nobody gets that good, which is that's where I thrive, right? In that
Yes.
none of us really know how to play the game. That's really where I'm at my peak.
Yeah, just button mash. Just button mash.
Exactly. All right, so then this next one, I thought was interesting. It is apparently a franchise already. Atelier Yumiya, I believe was how you said it, and it is a like very like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry kind of style, like action uh RPG was the kind of vibe I got from it.
Yeah. I thought it was I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was something having to do with Xenoblade. But, like,
I could definitely see
then
that.
that happened several more times, like, throughout the direct. I was like, "Okay, Xenoblade would not announce like this. Like, this is not Xenoblade." But it gave me that vibe. And, not for me, but, it looks like a really cool JRPG. I mean, action
Yeah,
adventure game.
these
Yeah.
games never really quite speak to me, but, I mean, there's obviously a lot of people that they do. We've got a lot of Platinum fans, in the audience. I know people really
Yeah.
liked, what was it? Altered can't remember it. Can't remember that game that they put out on Switch. It's, like, right here. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But, yeah, I think this is one of those ones. It's like, maybe not for us, but I think this probably speaks to people. And, yeah, I'm always just very surprised when even if it's a genre that I'm not into, and they're like, it's like the next entry in this beloved series, and it's like, I've never heard of this series. Like, how is that possible? Right? Like, I spent a lot of time thinking about video games the last 20 years. Like, how is this just
Who is
escape
beloved?
by who, right?
Yeah.
Not, I don't mean that with shade, but maybe it's one of those things where it's not super well represented in the West. Maybe it's more of a
Yeah.
Japanese centric series, but either way, it is a one of those high octane action RPGs. There's an anime girl protagonist. She's got a cute sidekick. If those things check boxes for you, this is a trailer I would check out. So back on my side of the nerdy Japanese games thing is we got Suikoden 1 and 2 remasters. I think these look really cool. Suikoden is one of those like legendary JRPG franchises. I've never played them. This looks like a really good way to jump in because it's one of those like remasters of this era of game that I really appreciate, where it's like they're doing the best that they can to like maintain the visuals and the soundtrack and like the aesthetics of those games while making them a little bit more like modern player friendly of like, adding stuff like autosave or whatever, right? And they had like a thing where it's like there's an auto battle system, there's like turning off like overworld encounters if you're trying to get through a place quick, like little things like that that just make a game that can be grindy feel a little bit more forgiving. I think is always just like welcome, right? Especially if you're trying to go get into a game that's 30 years old and you don't have nostalgia for it. You're trying to go in as a new player. Those little
Right.
changes are appreciated. So
Yeah.
this is one I hope I get around to. And I feel the same way about the next one, the Dragon Quest HD 2D remake. They gave some more information on that. They're adding some new classes. They talked about some new features that are going to get added, and they teased some stuff that they're going to talk about later, like monster interactions and stuff like that. Coming out November 14th, right around the corner. There's another one that like I hope I have time for. There's a couple other newer games that I think are going to be taking precedent for me, but these are ones that I could see myself getting to during like a slower period in the year like we had this year.
Yeah.
So then we got another collection, and I forgot this is another one that was out today. The Castlevania Dominus collection. This is a trilogy of Castlevania games that were released on the Nintendo DS back in the day. I know these games are really, really like well remembered. I have a couple friends that are Castlevania people,
Mm.
and these games are like really beloved. A lot of people think that they're like pretty up there on the hierarchy of Castlevania games, and they're just another one of those series where it's like, yeah, like I don't know that they've ever been re-released, and it's just cool that they've kind of been brought forward and they're not tethered to the DS, which is, an increasingly old hardware, right? And like the
Right.
3DS being retired and everything, it's just like nice that you can get this on the modern console.
Yeah.
Okay, then next up we got Civ 7 coming out February 11th. This is cool. I was into Civ like 2 or so releases ago. I think 5 or
Really?
4 was the last one I played. Um, I'm one of those like gamers where like I like to get a taste of everything. It's like this is like not the kind of game that I'm like religiously into, but I get into a game like this every once in a while and like sink a lot of time into it. I had a couple of friends that were into it back in the day, and I like had like a year in college where I was playing a lot of Civ.
Really?
Yeah,
It's a fun detour from your usual fare of gaming.
yeah, it's like I like to be out there tasting tastes. I feel like cast a wide net, and I'm always trying to expand what I'm into. I don't
Right.
ever want to get stuck in a box and get bored of stuff. I
Yeah,
think
for
the best
sure.
way to do that is to just keep tasting. And this is one that like they have a new element to it that I think is cool, where you get to pick a leader of a country, and then you can like mix and match their history with another nation. So you could be like
Ah,
one of the examples that we went over. What was it? I guess it was, yeah, the Gamescom episode we did on Flip Screen last week was where this got revealed. And one of the examples I remember reading from, I think it was the press release, it might have been from one of the outlets who was aggregating stuff, was that like you could play as Ben Franklin and like build the Great Wall of China, or you could be like, you know, whatever, right? Like I don't know, you could be like Gandhi and like lead the Mongol horde, right? Or something like that. It's just very interesting to like have these like fun little, mix and matches, and that you can have like that kind of granular level of control. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited about this one. And I think it's a game that'll be at home on Switch, right? There's a lot of those like higher end PC titles that just like don't translate to Switch, but a slower turn-based, effectively a board game, right? It's like, that'll
Right.
work perfectly.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah, this whole run is just, like, stuff I'm like, "Yeah."
you're like, yeah, it's cool.
I'm like, "Cool."
Great. That's good. You're excited about it? That's fun. So then the next one is Tales of Grace's F. This is a
This looks
remaster.
good.
Yeah, I thought this looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Have you ever played a Tales game?
No, or
I played Tales of Symphonia, which was on the GameCube back in the day. I know a lot of people
right.
remember that one pretty fondly. And the lead character is voiced by the same voice actor who voiced Robin on the Teen Titans, which I always thought was
Oh,
cool.
wow,
I
okay.
think his name's Lloyd. And yeah, I have always been like, I really loved that game and have played none of the other Tales games. I know that they're really good. One of my best friends is like a huge Tales guy. He was really
Mhm,
excited about this. This is for the 30th anniversary of the franchise, remastering
mhm.
one of the old guys. I thought it looked good too. This is one I could see myself getting into if time allows.
Yeah.
January 17th. So okay, next up, I'm interested if you've ever played these games. They're doing the My Sims Cozy Bundle. If nobody remembers, these were Sims games that I believe were exclusive to the Nintendo Wii back in the day. And there was two versions of them. There's one that was just kind of like, it's My Sims, it's Sims, but this version of it. And then there's like a medieval one where you like control a castle town and stuff. That one I've played.
I've played neither of those games
I feel
or
like no one has. I feel like are a very like not well remembered, not well played games.
Yeah, and I keep forgetting that that's, like, what that game looks like. Because when the trailer started playing, I was like, what in the Playmobil is this?" Like, I was like, "What the hell?" Like, a good one for the babies, and then it was like, My Sims, I was like, "Oh, fuck."
It's very, very interesting. It's one of those just like I don't. This must have been them trying to respond to some trend at the time. Maybe it was Mii's on the Wii, and they were like,
Yeah, I
we'll
think
have
that's
our
what that
own."
was. That's accurate.
It's weird for sure, and it's even weirder that they're bringing these games back. But sure, I mean, my question is, when am I going to get the Herbs remake? You ever play the Herbs? That was I believe, console exclusive, Sims game where you had, like, a place in the city instead of, like, a house in the suburbs, and one of the most memorable parts of it was that the Black Eyed Peas were all NPCs that you could be friends with, and they recorded Simlish versions of a couple of their songs for the game.
I wanna be neighbors with the Black Eyed Peas.
You could! I remember, Fergie used to come hang out at my house. There you go.
Sing the national anthem for you.
There you go. All right, next up, we got Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2 is getting a release on the holiday. And then they had a whole like sizzle section of games that are coming out in time for the holidays. Again, this is like mostly games that they've, shown in the past a couple times already, but it was Epic Mickey Rebrushed, which actually just got previews have been going out for that, and it apparently is an exceptional remaster.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever played that game back in the day, but it was
I had
really
a cart for it on the DS, and I never played it, shamefully. But I've heard that, like, 1 or 2 of those titles and that, like, those games, Epic Mickey games are really good.
yeah, there's 2
So
of them, I think, and this I never played the second one, but, my bandmate was a really big fan of the first one and, like, pushed me and was like, "Here, take like, I brought you the copy, take it home and go give it a shot," and I really liked that. I think it was one of the more, um inventive uses of motion controls on the Wii back in the day, and also it's
Mm,
just a cool, like, premise. Like, they do a good job of, like, leveraging the kind of, like, history of Mickey Mouse shorts and, like, old school, like, turn of the century, you know, like, black and white Disney cartoons, which
yeah.
I'm a big sucker for the, like, golden age of animation.
Yes,
It's an
same.
aesthetic I really enjoy. That, like, rubber hose, like, Cuphead style. So, yeah, this is a game that, like, I literally haven't played since I was, like, 16 or something like that, so I'd love to give it another shot. I'm glad to hear that
Totally.
it's previewing pretty well. But then there's also Tales of the Shire, which is like a Lord of the Rings themed, farming sim. Um, then we got Just Dance 2025 still trucking along.
Woo.
Sierra and Max's, most anticipated game of 2024, Funko Pop Fusion. And then EA Sports Football Club 2025. I I know that like they lost FIFA and it's like this is just what they have to do, but like man, that does not roll off the tongue. EA Sports Football Club, just or FC, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, they should just start calling it by their abbreviated name, and then it'll catch on, 'cause is e
exactly.
I'm gonna stop right there. I'm not gonna finish it. No.
Fair enough. Okay, so then Lego Horizon Adventures is another one we saw at another one of these guys that's coming out. And then we got our kind of last two, like they had one more things, which is one of them is a newer game, one of them's a re-release. We got Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which is the like they called it a reimagining of the Rune Factory series. I thought Rune Factory 5 was new and not like that long ago. They made it seem like this was like the first new one in a long time. I know they just did some remasters. I'm a little bit Rune Factory's not a franchise I have a ton of knowledge about. So
Same.
I'm like think I'm mostly secondhand saying things that Chewy has said on this podcast before.
Ah.
So either way, I thought this looked good. I know that it's kind of become a meme, like, about how many of these are like farming sim, slice of life type games, and that like they show too many of them. But that is a franchise that, like, when it's good, it is something that many of us enjoy. I thought that this looked promising, but it is one of those things where, like, it has a little bit of that kind of like, all right, like, you have a lot to prove to me because of what kind of game you are, because I'm just getting so many of this type of game lately, you
Mhm.
know? And there are a lot of other games that are like, is it Tales of Mystria, Legend of Mystria? I can't remember, but there's that new one that like literally just dropped and is in early access on Steam and is a dating farming, kind of game that like that has everybody's attention right now. So it's like, I that game I just picked up, I'm excited to give that one a try. Am I gonna be in the mood for yet another game like that in just a couple months? I think probably not. And that's like my
Mm,
biggest concern with this game is just like it just feels like it's coming out a couple years too late, where it's like this trend is already in like such full force that it's like I don't know that I need a $60 version of that, you know?
mhm. Absolutely. You
Did,
got
did
your
you-
fill.
did it leave you feeling the same way?
Yeah, I'm good.
Fair enough. And then last up, we got Yakuza Kiwami. This is another remake. This is one of the ones that I like as somebody that's not a Yakuza guy. This is one of the ones that I know I've heard people talk about a lot. And it's
Mm,
like the kind of iconography of like you being the like tough, like Yakuza gangster and like protecting the like young child is like that's just such a like dynamite like setup for an action story of like
I know.
grizzled, like angry person protecting a young kid is like,
Yeah,
yeah, it works, right? It's Terminator, it's Wolverine, it just when it plays, right? Like that is an easy story to get over. And that was one of the ones like I definitely saw people in the audience were excited about. Wakahula was like, "Holy crap, I might be thinking about replaying this one on the Switch." So,
totally.
definitely a cool one. Not
Yeah,
exactly the most exciting thing to end on. I might have even flipped them just cuz like at least Rune Factory is like a new game, but you know,
totally. I didn't they end on Five Nights at Freddy's or, like but or at least that was, like, towards the very end?
that was towards the end because it was
Okay.
Five Nights, The Sizzle, and then these last 2.
Gotcha, okay.
At least I think that's
Yeah.
what it was. I took these notes in
I'm remembering them
chronological
out of
order.
order. I saw
Okay.
I saw all of those, and my brain decided to scramble the order in which I saw them.
You're scaring
Um,
me because now I'm like, did your brain scramble them or did my brain scramble?
at the end of the day, the Nintendo Partner Direct was the games we scrambled along the way. Um, yeah, Yakuza is iconic. I'll never play it, but, like, hats off to them and that franchise. It's awesome.
I like want to get into it. It's just one of those. It feels like so daunting because there's like a million games, and it's like I'm one of those
Yeah,
assholes. It's like, what am I going to start with the 10th one? It's like that seems crazy. It's like you just have to jump on at some point if you want
you
to try
have
it.
to just get started.
Yeah. So we'll
So re
see. So many people tell me I would like it. I feel like I'm missing out, but
right. Yeah.
they're also very long. So I got to make time for them at some point.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So before we wrap it up here, we got a couple questions in the question block I want to close out with today. So let's see. This one comes from Andrew Valentine. Not a lot in that direct for me, but seemed absolutely stacked. Looked like there's something for everyone. I think we agreed on that, right? It's
Yeah,
not,
that I think that was, like, our thesis earlier, like, "Hey, like, it's our lives have not been altered by any means, but, like, a little like, a lot it was had a lot of shit."
yeah,
So,
stuff to
everyone
look
walks
forward
away excited about something.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got this one comes from Left who said, with the new Switch seemingly imminent, is it dumb to want to buy new Joy-Cons? I got drift in my originals again, and the Sakura ones are calling my name.
Ah, yeah.
I think that you are in a really difficult spot right now because I think that if you are like playing a lot of stuff on your Switch and you have Joy-Con drift, it's going to be miserable and you're not going to want to play for the next couple months. So as much as I think it probably feels shitty to plunk down like $70 on yet another set of Joy-Cons when a new Switch is in the neighborhood of like what, probably 6 or so months away. Like, I get that, and I certainly wouldn't advise anybody who's like in a situation where that's going to like break the bank to do that. But
Yeah.
knowing what I know about you and like that, gaming is one of your hobbies, and you've got games you're playing on Switch, then like, yeah, I mean, if I was in your position, I would probably replace them.
Yeah, it's really tough. I'm going through a similar issue where, like, my Y button is not responding. It's just like,
Ah,
yeah, it's like I was playing Animal Crossing a couple nights ago, and I was diving, and I'm hitting the Y button, like, "Go under." And my Animal Crossing villager was not moving, and so I had to press harder, and I'm like, "Well, this doesn't bode well for when I flip back to Dave the Diver, where you have it's action adventure and everything's trying to kill you. You have
yeah,
to act swiftly." Yeah, so, like, I guess the solution is, like, I have 8-bit-do controllers, but that doesn't help me when I wanna just play handheld.
right.
I love to play in bed. And it's like, yeah, I could try to I tried to read How to Fix It Yourself. I'm a person who, like, okay, I realize if I, really carve out time and I'm patient, I could probably fix it myself. However, I'm also scared at the money dump that will ensue if I fuck it up, and then I still gotta buy the Joy-Cons anyway. So,
Yeah.
I
I
feel like there's no I what you said I think is valid, like, just get the new ones because there's still a lot of time
yeah.
till whatever the next Switch guy is, so, a lot of time.
Yeah, I think to your point though, you raise a good point. I think if you're inclined to do like a project, like if you're willing to tinker, like I think a set. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know Doc could write in with this because I know he's fixed a couple of Joy Cons. I think there's like tools that you need to fix them. It's like $15 or something like that to get like the right screwdriver and everything. So it's like, if you're down to take it apart and see if you can fix it and save yourself $50, then like go for it. Because like
Yeah.
worst case scenario is your Joy-Con that doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then you gotta buy
Right,
a
and
new
nothing
one, and so you're
changes
out
things.
15 bucks. But like if you fix it, then maybe you can kinda stop that gap for a couple more months and um, get the last few months you need out of it. But yeah, if you're not in the mood for a project, or if you're gonna be like, I agree with you, Sierra. I'm that same kind of person. Like, I would be frustrated with myself if I bought the stuff to fix it and then couldn't fix it and then had
Yeah.
to buy a new one anyway. So if you think that's gonna be a bummer for you, then I would just cut out the middleman and get a new set.
Yeah, weigh the possible costs and every possible option, and then just see which one you're like, "Okay, I would suffer the least with this."
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
All right. So Um, the next one, we got a question here from Space Channel 5. He said, I've got 14 hours or so stuck on a plane to Japan with a Switch. Recommendations? I was going to lean into the Vita and play Persona 4, but if you have better answers, I'm in. So we got a reply to that one from Wakahula, who said, Paper Mario, if you haven't played it yet, the Steam Deck was too heavy for me on my 2-hour flight. I get that. Um, I think Paper Mario is a good shout. I know you've been
Yeah.
enjoying that one this year.
Yes, except for the ending, but yes.
Yeah, you're having some trouble with the like final
Uh,
boss run,
don't
right?
do the pit of 100 trials, everyone, unless you have 5 hours to kill, and then don't I made the mistake of dropping down into the final Bone Tail level before I changed out my partners, changed my badges, anything. That that shit was grueling and defeating. Everything else about the Thousand Year Door remake is stellar and wonderful. Um, yeah.
I think that's definitely a good pick for like a
Yeah, because
longer flight.
you could get through, like, a lot of the game in 15 hours. You could just
Yeah.
demolish it and
Yeah.
be entertained the entire time.
Yeah, and it's like I think it's a perfect game for that kind of flight because it's like I don't know. I generally like that kind of game on a long flight like that because it's easy to like
Yeah.
dip in, dip out. And like if you're tired, like you can stop in the middle of a fight and just put your Switch in sleep mode or whatever and like pick it back up. And I find that kind of game to be good for that kind of thing. I do think Persona is a really good shout. I played Persona 5 on a flight more than once and really enjoyed my time with it that way.
Yeah.
Um, I do think we talked about Sea of Stars earlier. That's another one that I would probably shout out. It's another really good RPG. If you're in the mood for something like turn-based like that, story driven. I think that's another easy shout. Um Oh, you know what? Yeah, if you haven't before, Fire Emblem. That's another one. If you never played like Three Houses, or if you didn't play Engage last year and you like that kind of game, that's another really good shout. Wargroove is another one I'd recommend in that same kind of vein of just like, again, tactical RPG, like map clearing kind of gameplay. Um, those are the kinds of things I generally gravitate towards on a flight. Or I guess if you want something that's like a little bit more you know, like arcadey, then like I mean something like Grindstone is a game that Steve and I both really enjoyed on Apple Arcade originally, and then it came to Switch. And it's just like a really fun, like digestible like puzzle game that has a really good sense of progression. So I think those are generally my go-tos for a long trip like that. Is something that I can, or I mean hell, Balatro. That's a phenomenal one. So that gives you a couple options. Hopefully that helps you out, Space. All right, gang. Well, thank you for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. This was a fun one. It's always fun to get to chat about a Nintendo Direct, even if they didn't have an S tier announcement to end us on. I walked away with a couple things I was excited about, and it's always a pleasure to get to jump on and chat with you about it, Sierra.
Absolutely, Pete. Likewise.
So, folks, if you want to let us know what your number one takeaway was from this double shot of Nintendo Directs, or if there was a game that you were really hoping to see that didn't make it, or you have a dream announcement for the next Nintendo Direct, make sure you hit us up all the ways that you can. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find all the places we are all over the web and all the ways you can get involved. However you choose to do so, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.